It's 30,000 years ago. You're huddled in the dark, and for the first time in history, you realize you aren't the hunter, you're the meal. Beyond the reach of your dying fire, a pair of eyes is locked onto you. They aren't just looking at you, they're measuring you. These are the ancestors of the modern dog, the gray wolf, a creature built to survive, not to trust. But tonight, the predator doesn't strike. It waits. It's playing a long game, a dangerous game. The most terrifying part of this story isn't the wolf, it's how we changed. We didn't just befriend these beasts. We entered a dark bargain that stripped away their wildness and tethered our evolution to theirs. This isn't a story of how a cute puppy became your best friend. This is the accidental story, deeply manipulative, of how humans and wolves entered a deal that changed the world, a deal that cost us our fear and cost them their soul. 30,000 years ago, the world was a brutal stage, an unforgiving stage, where only the ruthless survived. Humans and gray wolves occupied the same niche, apex predators. We were rivals for the same meat, fighting over the same territory. In the freezing, unforgiving tundra. To a wolf, a human was a nuisance. To a human, a wolf was a nightmare. For millennia, this kept both species locked in a violent state of mutual exclusion. But imagine the psychological toll of that reality. Constant, low-level terror. You couldn't sleep soundly. You couldn't leave your group. Every rustle in the dark was a potential death sentence. But when the environment turned against everyone, when the climate shifted and food became scarce, the mental landscape of the wolf shifted. Some realized that scavenging near human camps instead of hunting was a safer way to stay alive, more efficient. It was a psychological evolution, from pure aggression to calculated opportunism. The gray wolf didn't become a dog by magic. It chose to infiltrate our world, one stolen scrap of meat at a time. Scientists believe the first step toward this transformation wasn't made by humans. It was made by the wolves. Imagine a group of wolves wandering near a human campsite. Not the strongest wolves, not the most aggressive wolves, but the least fearful ones. These were the outcasts, the wolves with a slightly mutated response, a lower adrenaline response. For them, the scent of human food overrode the biological command to run. They discovered that scavenging, while dangerous, was a caloric jackpot compared to the grueling labor of chasing down elk in the snow. But this behavior sparked a chain reaction, a radical chain reaction, unstoppable. Humans didn't just tolerate these scavengers, they began to select for them. We instinctively fed the ones that didn't growl. We kept the ones that didn't snap. In doing so, we were performing an experiment. The most significant psychological experiment in history. We were breeding out the wolf's most essential survival tool, its fear of humans. This wasn't just physical domestication, it was a total rewiring of their brain chemistry. We were turning wild, tactical predators into dependent social opportunists. But as the wolf's mind changed, so did ours. We were no longer just hunter-gatherers. We were becoming guardians of a new, dangerous shadow, and incredibly useful. Why did this bond stick? It wasn't just food. Recent studies suggest a hormonal shift occurred, the same bonding hormone that makes human mothers love their infants. Oxytocin began to flood the brains of these proto-dogs when they interacted with us. This is the dark side of that chemical bond. We weren't just creating a pet, we were creating a biological dependency. These wolves became hardwired to seek our approval, to read our facial expressions, and to mimic our emotional states. They essentially traded their predatory sovereignty for a shot of oxytocin. And for us, we gained something even more insidious. We outsourced our vigilance. By having these sentinels around our camps, we stopped having to be alert at all times. We let our own guard down, psychologically, because we knew the wolf would bark. We entered a codependent relationship where neither species could fully survive the way they had before. We created a creature that in many cases would struggle to survive without us. And we created a human who couldn't sleep in the dark the same way again. If you still doubt the chilling nature of this bond, look at the archaeological record. We have found ancient grave sites, dating back thousands of years, where humans were buried alongside these early proto-dogs. Don't mistake these graves for simple memorials. The human is often laid out, sometimes with their hand resting on the animal's skull. Some scientists believe this reflects something deeper, even deeper than companionship. Dogs buried with collars, fed the same food as their owners, treated as though they had souls of their own. The dark bargain was the moment we first blurred the line between wild and tame, between rival and family. And this is where the dark psychology hits the hardest. We didn't just coexist with these animals, we remade them. Over millennia, we didn't just feed the quiet ones, we actively selected for traits that served our comfort. We engineered away their lethal instincts, their independence, and their predatory intelligence. We were shaping a killer into a projection of our own desires. We were sculpting a companion out of a lethal predator, reshaping the wolf's ancient, wild identity into something built to live beside us. In that sense, we didn't simply save the dog, we remade it in our image, took a wild force of nature and replaced its independence with an unbreakable loyalty, hormonally driven to ourselves. It is perhaps the most successful, most intimate act of psychological transformation in the history of this planet. So the next time your dog stares at you from across the room, don't mistake that focus for simple, unadulterated love. Look closer. Beneath that gaze, the predator hasn't disappeared. It's just dormant. We didn't destroy the wolf. We simply integrated it into our homes, our lives, and our minds. We are the only species on this planet that brought its greatest rival into the bedroom, and we've been paying the price for that gamble ever since. The bargain was struck 30,000 years ago, and it never truly ended. It's just waiting for the fire to go out. This is Mood Frame. Stay curious about the dark.